Good morning. Today is Tuesday, November 19th. This is Wake Up with KERA News, and I'm Andrew Garcia. The storms have passed through North Texas for now, and we can expect clear skies today through most of the week. Temperatures will peak in the low 70s today and drop to the 40s overnight as a cold front sweeps in. In a moment, we'll hear how President-elect Donald Trump's tariff plans could affect American businesses and consumers. But first, today's news. The Texas Senate will take the lead on an effort to harden the state's power grid against major disasters, far worse than the winter storm Texas experienced in February 2021. State Senator Bob Hall filed Senate Bill 75, which would create a commission to determine the best ways to strengthen the grid against threats like solar events or electromagnetic pulses from nuclear weapons. A Dallas County man convicted in a case of shaken baby syndrome has been exonerated. Andrew Rourke was sentenced to 35 years in prison for injuring his girlfriend's 13-month-old daughter in 1997. But the Court of Criminal Appeals now says Rourke's conviction was based on invalid science. That science, known as the shaken baby syndrome theory, was also used in the case against death row inmate Robert Robertson. His execution was paused last month. On the campaign trail, President-elect Donald Trump promised to impose import tariffs as high as 60% against all goods from China and possibly 20% on goods from everywhere else. But what would that mean for businesses and consumers? Travis Toker is a professor of supply chain management at Texas Christian University's Neely School of Business. He sat down with KERA's Bekah Morr to talk through the impact of Trump's proposed tariffs.
Can you start us off by explaining what import tariffs are?
Import tariffs are fees applied to goods that are being brought in from other countries. So if the item was designated as having been manufactured in a specific location or country, the federal government might impose an additional cost on top of that. It's done for a number of different reasons, but the bottom line is it makes those goods more expensive.
It makes those goods more expensive for the companies that are buying them. Does that then also get passed on directly to the consumer?
Yeah, in most cases, it's going to eventually, in some way, shape, or form. You have to make the choice whether to eat those costs, in which case your margins go down, or you have to increase the price of the products that you charge to make up for that difference.
This would not be the first time Trump has instituted tariffs on imported goods. Can you talk to us a little bit about his last presidency and what that looked like as far as tariffs are concerned?
Yeah, so when Trump took office in 2016, there was a lot of talk of implementing tariffs to offset a number of grievances that he perceived. That took place in about 2018, I think, is when things really started to heat up. It started with a series of tariffs that were put on steel and aluminum, and then it was broadened out to a number of other products as well. When Biden took office, there was question about whether they would be dialed back or eliminated entirely, but Biden chose to keep them in place. And to this day, they still are there. And that's kind of one of the interesting things about tariffs is they tend to persist. A number of tariffs that are on the books currently have been in place for decades. So that's kind of a problem with these things is once they are put in place, they don't tend to go away very easily.
And what was the fallout from those 2018 tariffs? I mean, did that impact the increasing inflation that we've been seeing over the past few years?
Certainly, the tariffs had some impact in terms of rising costs at the consumer level, but not near the impact I would argue is a lot of other factors. But, the tariffs did increase prices on a number of things, some appliances that used materials that became more expensive, things like that. So it wasn't without impact for sure.
Finally, I want to ask your advice for businesses that are preparing for either expanded import tariffs under the next Trump administration or new tariffs on different goods. What would you tell them?
If you're a business and you're trying to anticipate, what's going to happen and what you can do. Well, if you know that some of your material costs are going to go up, it's good to start looking for alternatives potentially, if there are domestic sources. And the reason why is because there's often not a lot to go round. And so if you are hoping to find another source that's not going to be subject to tariffs, they're going to be locked up in terms of their production capacity very quickly by others who are looking. So, now's the time to start at least looking around to see what alternatives might exist. Companies might also consider exemptions. So that was one thing in 2018 that Trump did as part of the tariff package was said, look, if you as a U.S. manufacturer cannot find a domestic source of supply that meets your needs, well, then you can apply for an exemption to where imported steel or imported aluminum or whatever it is, you can still get it at a non-tariffed rate. There might be some ways out if there's just no alternatives for you.
That was TCU professor Travis Toker speaking with KERA's Bekah Morr. The Cowboys lost 34-10 to the Texans last night after not managing to score at all in the second half. They now drop to 3-7 with just a 1% chance of making the playoffs this year. And the Dallas Stars also lost what was a winnable game against the lackluster Anaheim Ducks 4-2. The Dallas Mavericks take on the New Orleans Pelicans this evening in an NBA Cup game at home. Tip-off is at 7:30. Diaries of Home features the work of 12 women and non-binary artists exploring the complexity of community, family, and home. And it's on view now at the Modern Art Museum of Fort Worth. For more information and other things to do, visit kera.org/calendar. Thanks so much once again for listening to Wake Up with KERA News. I'm your host, Andrew Garcia. The show is produced and edited by Shardae White and Bekah Morr. A big thank you to them. For more news in your inbox, visit kera.org/wakeup. That's where you can subscribe to the Wake Up with KERA News newsletter. That's written by our colleague, Catherine Hobbs. Connect with us on Instagram, TikTok, or Facebook. Our handle is @KERATX. Take care, and we'll see you tomorrow.